It is overtime here again at Old Favorite Friday, where we give love and respect to classic, incredible beers that we don't think get enough attention. And this week we are continuing the conversation with Bell's Best Brown. Now, anybody who has watched any of these on our Instagram page and our social media pages, or come over here and watch the longer videos here on YouTube, knows how much I love Bell's, because this is the 8th beer that we have done from Bell's, far and away the most of any brewery. Not because I love Bell's better than other breweries, Sierra Nevada, many other breweries could and will get to that number at some point. But Bell's is from my home state of Michigan, so I just, they're on my radar. And every single time I see a beer on the shelf, it comes in seasonally or something I haven't seen in a while, I'm like, oh, thank God it's here. I can finally do an Old Favorite Friday on it. And that's exactly what we did here with Bell's Best Brown. This beer this was a staple beer for them. They brewed it for the first time in 1988. So this is a 36-year-old recipe of beer from Bell's, one of the older craft brewery producers or craft beer producers, I should say, in the United States. So this beer has been around for a long time. It was a staple beer for them. I think it was a year-round beer for them for a very long time. I think it then became seasonal, and it was eventually pulled from production altogether as far as mass distribution. I think they still do it in small quantities, probably in the Eccentric Cafe or maybe even locally in Michigan, but it does not make it down to Florida on a regular basis. That is until they put it in their mixed 12-pack of cans that comes out for the fall. And I had not seen this beer in a long time. I was just perusing the aisle and I saw that Bell's Best Brown was in that 12-pack, so I picked it up. You might still be able to find some of it on the shelves. I know we're coming into spring here. But you never know. Some of these beers are still sitting around there. So if you see that, I highly recommend. The beer drinks really, really well. And you're not going to have any problem with drinking this beer from the fall pack to now. It's going to still be delicious for you. But I was thrilled to have this beer because I hadn't had it in a while. It was always one of my favorite brown ales. For years and years, because I really love the harmony and like the marrying of the kind of the old world English style brown, which is really big and malty, and the hop profile of the New World brown ales that we have in the U.S. We just did a couple weeks ago, we did Brooklyn Brown Ale, which does that extremely well also. And this has a lot of that classic brown ale profile with your toffee, your caramel, little bits of hints of cocoa on the nose. To me, it's all caramel and toffee, a little bit of bready toastiness. With the flavor profile, going more to like a pumpernickel kind of bread with that bitter baker's chocolate. But the hop presence is really there. There's a nice lingering bitterness that rounds this beer out really, really well, doesn't allow it to get too sweet, and really kind of cements it in that kind of more American style brown ale. But never forgets where it comes from. There's plenty of malt flavor here. There's plenty of hop flavor. It's just really, really well balanced and does justice to both ends of the spectrum when it comes to a brown ale. Really, really drinkable. Always great to do as a food pairing. Bell's or the brown ales in general, but Bell's Best Brown just really lends itself a lot of ways because it has a little bit of bitterness to it. It's not just sweet with some of the more English style brown ales can be a little bit more one-dimensional when it comes to food pairings. But that bitterness really, really helps make it more versatile in general. When it comes to Bell's, I talk about them all the time, and we featured so many of the beers. We just did Expedition Stout a month or so ago, and I said that I had one more beer. This was the one. So for all you people that guessed, it was Bell's Best Brown, obviously. This brewery has always hold a place in my heart because of being from Michigan, but I've also visited both the production facility in Comstock and also the Eccentric Cafe in Kalamazoo, one of my favorite places to go and my favorite beer bars I've ever been to. That was years and years ago, so I can't cite chapter and verse of what's going on there at the time, but it was an old school schoolhouse. They had live music, they had really good food, a crazy amount of beers on draft that I didn't even know you could get. This was back before I had Devil Dancer for the first time, which is a triple IPA, which I loved, and just so many things that I'd only heard about that I was able to have at the Eccentric Cafe for the first time, and it just blew my mind. So I'm so happy to see that even after being sold, they were sold a couple years ago, I think in 2001, to the Kieran Group, and a lot of people thought, the quality is going to go down. It's one of these macro, large corporate conglomerates bought them up. But, drinking this beer and drinking Expedition recently and drinking all the Bell's beers, because I'm a regular drinker of Two Hearted. I love the Big Hearted double IPA they brought out recently. the quality is still there. They're still doing amazing things. The Kieran Group also owns New Belgium and Brooklyn, at least parts of those breweries. And once again, quality has stayed up. So it kind of dispels the notion that just because you get bought out, you're going to lose quality. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in this situation, they have kept the quality up. They're making incredible beer, and I'm so happy to see these legacy, classic flagship beers, even if they're not going to be around year round, which I wish they were, to bring them back in this way and allow us to just kind of reminisce and think about these beers again, just, fills my heart with glee. This beer in general, I'd like to give you guys a food pairing. Brown ales, typically with, sausage, burgers, stews, things of that nature. I love a brown ale with a nice apple pie for dessert. I think it goes really well. Vanilla ice cream, apple pie, and a brown ale. Beautiful. But recently I had a dish that I thought would pair really well with this, and this was like a pork tenderloin, like a walnut crusted pork tenderloin with kind of like a Dijon, like stone ground mustard glaze. That is just suited for this so well. Brown ales naturally have this nutty component to it, and you're bringing out and accentuating that with walnuts. It goes really well with mustard and those kind of richer sauces and things of that nature. And pork is a great building block for any dish that you're doing with a brown ale, because it's a little more robust and full flavored. So I think you can't go wrong with that. I would love to have that today. I hate giving these recommendations because I don't have that in front of me and I want to eat that so badly. But Bell's Best Brown Ale, I can't recommend it enough. If you can't find this, which you probably can at this point if you're watching this in the spring, just go buy some Bell's beer this week for Old Favorite Friday. Just go pick it up, because you're not going to be disappointed. If you haven't had a Two Hearted in a while, go get that. If you hadn't had an Oberon in a while, go get that. This is a great brewery that makes great beer and continues to deliver after all these years, evident by how many times I talk about Bell's. So we'll see you next week for Old Favorite Friday. Please poke around to the channel, like, subscribe, do all those great things, and to support us. And just look at the other videos that we're doing about other beers that you might be passionate about, or beers that you might not have had in a long time, and support these great breweries and these classic beers that, as I've always said, do not get the love and respect they deserve, and that's what we're trying to do right here on Old Favorite Friday. We'll see you next time. Cheers.